Beer in this case. Okay, this is a very famous site, cemetery of Beer. Some of you have heard of this. You get quite an interesting array of things, but this Queen Puabi, she's known as, in her grave, I don't know if you can see that, but along the side here, there's one of those straws. You might know this one. This is one of her headdresses in there, but there's a strainer. This is actually gold. It's very interesting, and it has holes through it at the bottom. This is what one of those fermentation vessels, or sorry, a drinking vessel would have been. So sucking this beer out of that, and then one of these spouted vessels for decanting. It very well may have been beer, could have been just water, could have been multi-purpose, but it's actually silver, so something probably important, likely an alcoholic beverage, but not firm. Could have been wine. Wine was around there too. You see on one of these standards here actually, this is lapis lazuli imported from Afghanistan, and these guys are holding what is determined to be actually goblets. Big feasting, events. Typically, you'll see in a lot of these contexts archaeologically is that they are involved in funeral rituals, beer consumption. At the side here of Lagash, right down here, there's evidence. This was quite early. Now, this is one of the sites. Again, there's not a whole lot of archaeological evidence, like actual material, excavated material, other than the seals that attest to being produced and consumed. But at this site, anyway, there is, in one of these rooms here, there was what's interpreted to be evidence of brewing based on the types of ceramic assemblage that was found there. And that states 2450 BC. It was particularly Donald Hanson here that was orchestrating this. This was late 60s into the 70s. So, again, you got this is another bit of iconography, similar to what you saw at Ur, kind of that feasting scene. So here's the site that Dr. Moore, PhD students here, which I'm sure she'll love to talk more about, and we'll probably end up correcting me on some of this, but this is a site that's also talked about as far as one of the few examples of brewing in Mesopotamia, in this case Syria. And that dates to the late Bronze Age, 1500 thereabouts. So inside Area H, this is one of the structures, and I'm kind of passing along these graphics because they're very hard to come by these days. But the Milwaukee Public Museum actually were involved in this excavation, late 70s here at this beginning. Rudy Dorman was heading this project, and within this room, this is room 7 here. It seems to be a multifunctional kitchen, if you will. To go to the extent that it was a full brewery, I think would be maybe a bit of a misnomer, but what you have certainly is a whole variety, as you'll see, of accoutrements that would suggest the use of quite a bit of grain and the manipulation of that grain for whatever reason, whether it was alcoholic or not. It was also known as the tablet room because there's this tablet that talks about the site, which is Azu. That's what it's known as. But within this, again, it's actually a little bit earlier. It's interesting to note that there's this, again, scene of ceremonial consumption. This is much earlier, though. It's the Middle Bronze Age. It's actually not that far. But, these are some of the ceramic assemblages from that area. Of course, you get spouted vessels. But within this room, what's interesting is that you have everything that you would expect. Large storage jars, vats, 4 of them, 3 cooking pots. So this, you're obviously storing something in there. Liquid, perhaps, likely dry goods, yes. What was in this room that was interesting is that it was, the publication saying that it was a high quantity of barley, carbonized barley, quite a bit of it. Now, of course, that would be used for making bread and things like that, but having a surplus of it would suggest that you could have used it in other ways. And certainly beer was not unknown in the area. The direct evidence, however, may lie inside some of these ceramic vessels, which we'll see how you can actually interpret some of those. And that's based on this this residue called calcium oxalate. So in Iran, an area of the world that I'm more interested in, or I'm interested in, more familiar with, based on my thesis research with ceramics from the Iron Age. So later than this is an early site, actually Mesopotamian influenced Sumerians came in here in the Baroque period and had a garrison set up. Tepe within one of these, fortunately, with ceramic analysis, and now with the use of non-invasive methods to look at some of these archaeometry-wise, calcium oxalate residue was identified within one of these pots, which kind of turns out to be sort of the smoking dawn of beer production. So what is that? Basically, calcium oxalate is a combination of magnesium and calcium. This typically happens within water breweries to this day, where you'll get kind of this crystalline residue that ends up building up. This is going on today. Very nice. Smells good. So yeah, basically it can be toxic in large quantities, but it does remain in this crystallized format and form. To be able to identify that requires high resolution magnification and some destructive analysis. But so I don't know, as far as some of that telluride material, there's a possibility that, Jocelyn, I don't know, there could be beer production in some of those vessels. So it requires, I think, a lot more research to look into some of these pots for local purposes if you're interested in if there was beer being consumed and produced. If that's your thing, otherwise, you can just assume that they were making lots of different things and that you would expect at different times in antiquity. But I think beer has a certain place within the consumption realm because of its social cohesion, sort of that results from it. Of course, we'll see it in rituals in terms of burials or political discourse that beer had a very prominent position within that realm. So, calcium oxalate. Well, here again, here's some of the area. I'm going to talk more about this actually tomorrow night over here. There's a couple of us from the Public Museum talking about our research in museum collections. And of course, this is at the Public Museum, an assemblage of ceramics that I looked at, over 100. And a lot of them are spouted vessels. Now, these are obviously used for decanting a liquid. Now, why would you go to the point of producing very enigmatic or, very, what we would consider elite wares for this reason? They were used for special occasions, obviously. What was in there, hard to say, but in some of the iconography here, in fact, from Anatolia, there's a scene here actually identified this seal. Lo and behold, I saw this fella. I was like, that is very similar to some of the pieces that are in this collection in the context of beer consumption. So, again, maybe they were produced solely for that. We don't know, but certainly they would have been used as well if that was if beer was being consumed. Obviously, it needs to pour out. Something like this would have allowed the grain to kind of sit in there and then filter it through. Some of these other ones, you get deer, large, just handled stuff. So, more to be learned, I think, still from that collection. We'll go to Egypt, and Enket is the word, Egyptian word for beer. It's actually having glyphs on this particular vessel. So I'm actually fermenting this recipe, which is very similar, in fact, to the Mesopotamian recipe of sikaru, of using bread and barley loaves with honey and dates fermentation. So, but it shows up all over Egypt throughout antiquity, early on, even 3rd millennium BC. But here you get texts that describe pharaohs allotting certain amounts of beer to laborers. One could argue that the construction of the pyramids certainly wouldn't have gotten done really without the use of grain, and particularly beer, jugs of beer, which probably weren't very, again, alcoholic, but would have provided quite a necessary nutrition source to stay healthy, particularly when you're building something rigorous as large pyramid. So, Osiris, again, is another point. I mean, a lot of these, when you talk about oral traditions and who created beer, where it came from, typically